殺人キックゴー。オーケー。パイナップルキック。あっちが。
I've talked about a lot of things I've grown up with on this channel, expressing my like and distaste for many of them. One thing I feel like I barely touched on is my love of superheroes. I mentioned it here or there, but I don't think you really understand how much superhero comics, their morals, and their characters really shaped who I am today. They're as much a part of my identity as anime titties, and while I'd love to credit Spider-Man, Superman, and Arms Fall Off Boy as my major influences, that's a lie, because really there's only one group of teenagers with attitude that have burned themselves into my being. That's right, Power Rangers. I fucking love Power Rangers. While I haven't kept up with it for the past decade, for my earliest childhood all the way to late high school, I was a huge Power Rangers guy. Sure, it's dumb, but that's why I like it, you know? It's got cheesy messages of friendship, helping community, and morphing into a power suit to beat up monsters, causing people to act like dicks. I've wanted to talk about Power Rangers for the longest time, but I didn't quite know how to tackle it, as YouTube's a big place now, you know, and there are many well-known Power Rangers retrospectives online. There's at least 2, maybe even 3. That's a lot. When doing research for this, I realized there's something people often like to omit when talking about the history of Power Rangers, and that's the Sentai. For those that aren't aware, somehow, Power Rangers, an American production, mostly was made and saved money by, instead of filming action scenes, which usually cost the most in producing movies and TV shows, they would take footage from the Super Sentai series, a very popular tokusatsu-style show for kids made in Japan. Tokusatsu is a term describing live-action shows that use a lot of practical effects, explosions, and actors mostly wearing suits, literally meaning special effects or filming. Since the actors were in suits, all it took was some dubbing over, and voila, we got Power Rangers. And most of the time when it comes to the retrospectives of Power Rangers, people often leave out talking about the Sentai. I mean, hell, there are probably Sentai retrospectives that leave out Power Rangers. I agree with why. They are completely different shows, you know, they are not the same at all. They have their own original characters, plots, storylines, continuity, and besides both of them being kind of stupid and the suits, they don't have many similarities. Well, I say, fuck that. Let's make this a massive retrospective, not just looking at Power Rangers, but the entirety of Super Sentai as well. And I feel like this is the best time to do so, because for those that don't know, Power Rangers and Super Sentai are currently on hiatus to find ways to re-innovate and breathe new life into the franchises. In company speak, that means find a way to sell more toys again, which means we'll probably get a Hulu or Netflix revival in a few years. Now, it will be a while till we get to Power Rangers, sadly for me, so we won't be talking about it for quite some time, because many think Power Rangers ended after Mighty Morphin, but no, it's pretty much had a new season almost every year since the 90s up until its recent hiatus. And considering Power Rangers' crazy production cycle, switching production companies multiple times, even switching the continent it was filmed on, it's impressive it lasted as long as it did. But that's a story for way later. Cause while Power Rangers has existed for more than 30 years by this point, yeah, don't you feel old. Super Sentai has existed for over 50 years, with its most recent series ending earlier this year in 2026. And it has had a new season every single year since the early 80s. So yeah, we're going to be on Super Sentai for a long time before it's Morphin Time. And while I'll have a lot to talk about with my feelings and thoughts on Power Rangers, as far as Super Sentai is concerned, I got nothing, bro. Like I said, I agree the two series are different, and I am a Power Rangers fan. I've never felt the need to watch the Sentai. My only interaction with Super Sentai is I saw some episodes of the series Power Rangers is based on, Zyuranger, some episodes of the one Power Rangers in Space is based on, and I remember there's an episode of Power Rangers Dino Thunder where they actually watch the Sentai they're based on in a weird meta episode. But that's it. I got no idea what's happening with this franchise beyond that. My only other interaction with it has been doing research for this video series and seeing recent Sentai consisting of trains, helmets that are tires and look terrible, an awful CGI looking one based on Momotaro, and then whatever the fuck this is. So I'm going into Super Sentai truly blind. I do not know what to expect, and frankly, I don't really care. I just want to get to Power Rangers. That doesn't mean I'm skimming this or anything. I'm going in with an open mind. I mean, after all, if Power Rangers is dumb, I'm looking forward to seeing how unhinged the original show it's based on is. But for now, we gotta go back to the past, to the origins of Super Sentai, that begins where mostly all stories that involve Japanese media today begin, in the 50s, and with the Walt Disney of Japan, Osamu Tezuka. If you don't know who he is, Google him. I'm not talking about him because he doesn't really have anything to do with spandex wearing superheroes for the most part. No, I bring him up because of one of his assistants, Kotaro Ishinomori, who would work under Tezuka in the mid-50s working on manga like Astro Boy. He of course would go on to make his own manga after serving as an assistant, his most notable one being Cyborg 009, a series you may be aware of if you follow anime at all, as it's one of those series that gets a revival or a new piece of media every so often. Most importantly, it is the first manga in Japan to star a team of heroes, something pretty common in Western comics at this point, but not in Japan. Which this and other work showed that perhaps Ishinomori was getting into Western comics, which were not as well known or commonplace as they would be, considering by this point it was, the 60s in Japan. Poor Saps had no idea about Bat Cow. And it was pretty chill for Ishinomori for a while, kept drawing manga, until we get to the groovy 70s, where this newfangled color TV was all the rage, and at a small indie entertainment company named Toei, they were expanding from making just movies, and in the last decade they had established an animation studio to big success. And wanting to expand further, their next avenue, of course, was live-action television. Enter Toru Hirayama, a producer over at Toei, who had an idea for their first big live-action venture, one based on a superhero. I don't know why specifically he went in that direction. My theory is he went to America, saw the 60s Batman show, and was like, oh yeah, that's fucking sick, I want to do that. So of course with that idea, they needed someone to help in the creation of a new original hero for Japan, and they already had an in with a very creative person familiar with heroes, Ishinomori, as Toei had made the anime for Cyborg 009. So Hirayama went to Ishinomori with this idea, and he agreed to help, mainly because the hero was already made. Yeah, they were going to base it on a one-shot manga Ishinomori had just finished. I think you all know who it is. It's the man more famous, especially in Japan, than even Superman, Batman, or Frogman, the masked hero everyone knows that goes around fighting crime. That's right. Of course, I'm talking about Skullman. Skullman. Skullman is a 100-page one-shot manga by Ishinomori about a madman in a skull mask and his shape-shifting assistant going around murdering people as a way to get revenge on the man who killed his parents. Unfortunately, they hit a snag during production. The entire manga was the snag, as it's very violent. Seriously, Skullman gives no fucks. He murders everyone, even innocent people, and he does not care. The Punisher looks at this guy and says he needs therapy. And it wouldn't look great if the first big superhero from Japan was a mass murderer, so they reworked it a bit, kept the mask, ditched the skull, added some bugs, and in April 1971, the world was introduced to Kamen Rider, a masked bug-themed superhero who rides bikes and fights the remnants of Nazis. And it was a big success, becoming a cultural staple in Japan almost overnight, popularizing the tokusatsu genre, but also the henshin superhero genre, a hero that transforms to fight crime, with henshin literally meaning transform. Something that would be taken into other big series like Magical Girl anime, like other Toei franchise Sailor Moon, who the author Naoko Takeuchi would cite as being why they transform, well mostly due to Sentai, not Kamen Rider. And we're just going to skip ahead a bit because several Kamen Rider series did happen before the first Super Sentai series, and while I'm sure the Kamen Rider fans are in an uproar, I'm not talking about them. This is a Sentai / Power Rangers retrospective. If I added Kamen Rider to this, these videos would never be done. We'd be here forever. Besides, you Kamen Rider fans are fine. Your show is still on. And while it is still a cultural staple today, when the show came out, kind of petered out after a bit. While the original Kamen Rider did amazingly well, the other ones, no, dropping almost 70% in viewership, the follow-ups to Kamen Rider were not doing great. They tried various things to keep it going, but by the 5th series, Kamen Rider Stronger, it was decided to put the series on a break. But in the meantime, they needed something to air. Now, the creation of Sentai is a bit more general, because remember this was 50 years ago. I was surprised I found that much info about Kamen Rider. As for Super Sentai, not really much I could find about the ideation and creation of it, because well, it was 50 years ago and no one thought much of it at the time, and media preservation wasn't really a thing at the time. If it wasn't done probably for this. So, most of what we have to go off of are random interviews by people who were there or claimed to be there. So honestly, I couldn't tell you who specifically thought of Super Sentai, why they thought of it, what came about it. Now clearly the big idea was a team of Kamen Riders, which wasn't unusual. Kamen Riders worked together before. But with the series losing viewership, it must have been decided to make this a spin-off of Kamen Rider to distance it. So since they were a team, they would be called a Sentai, which roughly translates to team, army, corps, squadron. It's multiple assholes. And you can tell it's a spin-off of Kamen Rider because they all ride bikes. Unlike Kamen Rider though, Sentai would be made a bit different. While Kamen Rider was made for kids, it did have more mature themes, so this one would be more lighthearted for the most part. It would appeal more to kids in elementary school level, that kind of age, with more colorful costumes and wacky monsters. And again, not much I can tell you on how they decided every single detail of this show, like the casting, the writing. It was 50 years ago, man. So why not treat it like back then, hearing about it and just turning on the TV to see what it's like? We've talked enough about the origin, let's finally dig into the very first Super Sentai series, depending on when you ask Toei. I'll explain that more in a future video. There's some shit in my hair. Let's finally see where it all began in Himitsu Sentai Gorengers, or Secret Squadron Gorengers if you're feeling nasty. Before any of that though, the last thing, the theme song, the most important element of any show really. So I have a criteria for the Sentai and Power Rangers themes. They have to meet 3 points. They have to be catchy, of course, the lyrics have to hype up the Rangers and how awesome they are, and the visuals have to give me an idea of the characters and the vibe of the show. The intro to Gorenger is Susume Gorenger by Chume Watanabe, Isao Sasaki, and Mitsuko Horie, and Ishimori wrote the lyrics. It's fine, very 70s with its guitar and melody. It is pretty catchy, it does get stuck in your head after a while. The lyrics are alright too, they're so short I can just put them all on screen and you can read it. It's less about hyping the Rangers up and more about they fight for peace like a bunch of nerds. And the visuals are just each Ranger fighting some jobber and then riding off. So yeah, it doesn't really meet any of those criteria I just mentioned. I mean, maybe it's a little catchy. Maybe you disagree with me. If you heard it, because I don't know if I even played any of it in this video, because, you know, Japanese songs do not do well on YouTube, no matter how old they are. But it is the very first one, so I'm not holding anything against it. I just hope they get better. I kind of wish the theme song did explain things, though, because the first episode of the show just fucking fires off, dude. There's no chill. As the first thing we see are a bunch of drive-bys on military bases across Japan. Hey, I said lighthearted for the most part. The shooters are the bad organization of the series, the Black Cross Army, who are attacking the good organization, the Earth Guard League, most commonly called Eagle. Black Crossers go to 5 different bases across Japan and murder almost everyone, as each one has one lone survivor, and yes, they will become our rainbow spandex wearing heroes for this evening. In Kanto, not the Pokemon one, the survivor would be Aka Ranger, Tsuyoshi Kaijo, played by Naoya Makoto. From Tohoku, we have Outranger, Akira Shinmei, played by Hiroshi Miyauchi. Him being here illustrates a very common thing in all of tokusatsu. Accidental crossover. Because Miyauchi didn't get his start here, he was probably actually cast because he was a Kamen Rider before this show. He was Shiro Kazami in Kamen Rider V3 and made appearance in other tokusatsu stuff. Yeah, very often in Sentai series, we will see various actors who had or would later appear or portray famous tokusatsu characters in other shows. There are a lot. I'm not going to point out all of them unless they have something to do with Sentai specifically, because, trust me, a lot of actors show up. Also, yes, Akira is dressed like a cowboy. No, they never explain why he dresses like a cowboy. In Kyushu, we meet Key Ranger, Daita Owa, played by Baku Hatakeyama, who probably has the most personality out of all the Rangers, that he's fat and dumb. That's it, it's this whole thing. And unfortunately, it's a trope that will continue, kind of, in Sentai, despite what we'll learn about Baku Hatakeyama. Then in Hokkaido, we meet Momo Ranger, Peggy Matsuyama, played by Lisa Kamaki. If you can't tell by the name, Lisa, and I guess Peggy the character, are indeed half-Us, being half Swiss, so I guess she's impartial to this whole Black Cross Army versus Eagle Army thing. Finally, in Osaka, there's the youngest, or so they tell me, Mito Ranger, Kenji Asuka, played by Yukio Ito. No, that's not me doing an editing mistake, that's really the frame they pause on to introduce him. And for the record, I have not skipped anything or tried to commence this show yet, as they are introduced exactly like this. It's faster in the show, honestly, they didn't explain things like I did. As we then see the leader of the Black Cross, oh my god. Okay, let's all just chill for a sec, okay? Why don't we chill? Let's fucking chill. I know it looks bad, like really bad, but it's Japan in the 70s, you know? Maybe they didn't know about racism. And I'm sure that after this, they would find out why this outfit is bad and will never do it again ever. Well, at least the main bad guy is wearing it. Anyway, his name is the Black Cross Führer, and he is with his 5 jobber generals. I won't name any of them. They're the ones that attacked each base and act as the villains for the first 5 episodes, but don't add much in terms of mattering. And Black Führer sends the first one out, Goldmask, to do some bad. And every general of the Black Cross Army is kind of treated as the monster the team fights, which introduces a theme monsters will have in Sentai, usually being a noun followed by whatever that monster line is called. Like here, it's noun plus mask, like gold mask. It's also implied that these aren't really monsters, they're more like humans wearing masks, I think, at first anyway. Later, they're definitely monsters. It's kind of up in the air, really. We then come back to the Rangers, who are already Rangers, the uniforms and all. Yeah, they just have them. There's no ceremony, no pomp and circumstance, and Aka Ranger goes around recruiting all of them to meet up at the Snack Gone restaurant. which introduces what will be a common element in Sentai and Power Rangers, a usual hangout spot the Rangers spend time in when not fighting evil, and sometimes work at, or at least work nearby or have some sort of secret identity there. But as you'll see, early Sentai shows treat secret identities as existing when it's convenient, or never acknowledging them. It also acts as a secret entrance to their base, where all the Rangers meet up. And they're given instruction by a mysterious voice who kind of sounds like the chef of the snack bar, but nah, that's impossible. They're also given the Vadiboon, their special plane helicopter vehicle thingy, which is like one of the strongest machines on the planet. The Black Cross Army can't even touch the thing. And they have to go put it to use right now, as Goldmask has kidnapped a bus of kindergarteners who he has locked up in the gunpowder factory to blow them up. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it, right? Because you feel like the plot of a bus of kindergartners put in a gunpowder factory rigged to blow up is what you would see in a parody of this kind of show. But no, we're getting that shit in the first episode. So that makes it good? Of course, the Rangers save the day and go fight Goldmask, which means it's time. It's the very first team morphing sequence in all of Super Sentai, Power Rangers, everything. This is where history is made, people. Well, that fucking sucked. Well, I mean, I don't know what we were expecting. It was made in the 70s. We won't get any big CGI transformations or special effects until Windows Movie Maker exists. But we do get to my favorite segment of these videos. Judging the Ranger costumes. Now, being the very first ones, I will be nicer, I guess. Honestly, I kind of like them. They are uniform, but have differences to make each member stand out. Like the arrows on their chest, with an additional one depending on their rank, I guess. And the eyes being different. Though Green's being at such an angle makes him look evil to me. I also like the very 70s capes with really short length and really high collars. It's tacky, but what you expect from an OG 70s superhero. What I don't like is that for some reason, Akka is the only one with a big yellow arrow on his chest, and that he and Momo are the only ones that have white gloves and boots. It really feels like they made those two first and kind of slapped the other three together. I also don't like the numbers on their heads. I think the arrows do enough telling you what number they are, but I guess kids are stupid, so you gotta spell it out for them. And while, yeah, they're kind of dated, I think they work fine for the very first team, you know? They got the point across, plus they're the OGs, man, of everything we're going to be talking about, so I can't sit here talking shit about them. Later Rangers, it's all fair game. Anyways, we then see our first big fight of Sentai, and you may notice it's kind of alright. I mean, it's not bad, it's better than the fight choreography you'd see today sometimes. But if you're familiar with Power Rangers, you know there's all kinds of flipping and dipping, karate kicks, I just hit my table, and unnecessary explosions. Well, that's kind of here, but very subdued, and there is a reason for that, which we'll find out in about, 50 episodes. They then do another tradition of Sentai and Power Rangers, a big finishing attack, a move that pretty much every Sentai team has, where all 5 of the Rangers, or less depending on the team, get together to blow up the monster. Here, it's the Gorenger Storm. It's just a soccer ball. Yeah, they kick a ball around, Akka kicks it at the monster, they win, and the day is saved. Again, first one in the 70s, so I won't judge. Still kind of whack. Anyways, yeah, they beat Goldmask with footy, and the Black Cross Army now knows about the Go Rangers, ending the introduction episode. Slow your roll there, partner, is what you probably just said. You know from being in the future that the monster is supposed to grow and then the Rangers fight in giant robots that make good toys on sale now. Well, despite that arguably being one of the most popular aspects of Power Rangers and Super Sentai, that actually doesn't happen for a few Sentai series. Yeah, it's crazy that it was not here since the beginning. You think it would be. Also, weirdly, it was not even a Sentai show that introduced it. It was an entirely different show that started the whole Make My Monster Grow thing. But we'll talk more about that later on. For now, no giant monsters, sorry. We then get the ending song. While not as important to me as the opening, we'll be talking about them as this one is simply titled Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger. Each verse is the same, just 2.5 lines are changed about how the Rangers went to protect the Earth, and the footage is just them fighting the mass jobbers. It's fine. I mean, I got kind of sick of it because they don't just use this, but also the opening song a lot during fight scenes. They did it in the first episode. Speaking of the first episode, I'm not really a big fan of it. Being the first episode, it has to introduce a lot, you know, the 5 mains, the bad guys, the structure, this world, and other characters. And it doesn't really do any of that. It's really trying to streamline all that just to get to the fighting, which, yeah, it's a kid's show. They got no attention spans. But I'd like to see something, you know, like the Rangers' personalities besides Daita likes curry. It really needed to slow down or be a 2-parter. This is a brand new franchise. It's not like, you know, X-Men. You can just start because you probably know enough about X-Men. This is one of the few times I would have liked some exposition. But I guess that's my job, as now I'll tell you the structure of these Ranger videos. Now, if you've seen my past retrospectives, you know I do more plot recaps or even straight up telling you about every single episode, and I'll sort of do that here and there, but one problem, Sentai and Power Rangers are Monster of the Week shows, so not every episode is relevant, or dare I say, good, so there's a lot to skip. Later on, the shows will have more subplots and arcs and be more serialized, but for a lot of these early ones, no. It's mostly standalone episodes. So, like I just did, I'll do some production stuff for the season, talk about the introduction episode or episodes for that season. I'll give a more basic plot summary of the season, followed by my more personal thoughts on the writing, the characters, and stuff, as well as any episodes I want to highlight that I liked or thought sucked. Finishing it off with a sort of Where Are They Now segment for the main actors of that season, or the ones I think are relevant, because I like to see what Power Rangers, and now Sentai actors, I guess, have gotten up to after this kind of show. So with that, yes, we're in the summary segment, if you were following along with that, which I'm not sure how it will go, because like I said, Go Rangers is episodic. There are some episodes that lead into each other, very few, and some arcs, very few, but for the most part, there's not much story. But the flip side of that is this is the longest Sentai series, bar none. There's no contest. Yeah, the very first one, coming in at 84 episodes, as opposed to the standard average of 50 every other series will have. The reason for this is Go Rangers was very popular, and again, 50 years ago, so not entirely sure, but I think one reason Toei thought Kamen Rider was failing was switching main characters all the time. Something common now, but at the time was new. Not a lot of shows did it besides, I don't know, Doctor Who. So when the show got popular, instead of doing another season with new characters, they just extended this one, being the only Sentai show to air for almost 2 years, from April 1975 to March of 1977. So yeah, while being the longest episode-wise, plot-wise, there's not much, so I guess we kinda even out. Case in point, the second and third episodes, nothing really happens besides fighting the other mask guys. Until the end of episode 3, where we are introduced properly to the Go Rangers' allies and secondary characters. Remember a voice telling the Rangers what to do? Well, that turns out to be the chef of the restaurant. I am so shocked. Even though Daita kinda figured it out. His name is Gunpachi Edogawa, played by Toshio Takahata, some kind of commander in the Eagle Army and the direct commander of the Go Rangers, introducing another commonality of all the Sentai and Power Rangers, the mentor/commander figure of the Rangers. Each season will have one of these, someone who tells the Rangers when bad stuff's happening, as well as give them some guidance, the latter happening more often once it becomes more common that Rangers are teenagers with attitude. Edogawa's not really that, besides one or two occasions. All he does is tell the Rangers to deploy, but I'll talk more about him later. Then we're introduced properly to these 3 women who work/hang out at the restaurant, I guess, who are actually Eagle agents and Edogawa's personal bodyguards, 007, 008, and 009. Hey, like that manga thingy. These girls introduce another common thing that I don't know what you call them, assistants/helpers/friends of the Rangers. Now, not every season's going to have these, but sometimes there will be someone who's just a friend or knows their identities, who does field work with them or helps out on missions. Unfortunately, there's nothing to say about 008 and 009. They just kind of vanish at some point. Seriously, they just stop showing up and no one ever mentions them or anything, acknowledges their existence. They just leave the show. The only one that sticks around for some time is 007, real name Yoko Kato, played by Eri Kanema, who, no joke, is my favorite character in this show. Not now, but later on, she becomes very involved in assisting the Rangers. So much, she should have been one in my opinion. Also, I think Eri Kanema is really cute. And besides Edogawa, she's the other non-Ranger character that sticks around the longest, not just because she helps the Rangers out, but also for the other reoccurring character, our younger brother Taro Kato, played by Hiroyuki Konema. Not a fan of Taro. He plays 2 roles in this show. He gives out riddles, mostly to Daita to play up how dumb he is, or to be captured by the Black Cross Army to be used as leverage against the Rangers or Yoko. Thankfully, he's not in it much, especially as much as other kids will be in Sentai, but enough to annoy me. And yeah, the Rangers, Edogawa, and the Kato siblings are basically the only common cast members besides the Führer in this show. So then after that, not many episodes really build on a story. Again, it's just a Monster of the Week thing, like they fight Mac tonight. Anyone remember that? Until episode 15, the Big Blue Fortress, Big Raging Vadaboon. We are introduced to Sun Halo Mask, a now reoccurring general of the Black Cross Army. And this does again introduce another common Sentai character thing in the General, a figure under the big bad of the show that usually hatches the scheme of that episode and creates/commands the Monster of the Week. Not much to say about Sun Halo Mask. He's evil. There's nothing else about him. He's really just of note because he's the first continuous threat the Rangers face, as well as another character to follow outside the Ranger group. Well, follow is a strong word. In episode 17, The Purple Theme Park, A Demonic Cemetery, I'm only mentioning because these episodes are funny, as it's the Rangers fighting in a theme park, for the sole reason they are allowed to film in a theme park. There are a couple episodes like this in Sentai, and it's kind of funny every time. I also want to make note of episode 18, Horrible Black Crusaders attacking according to the secret plan, as it's the first time we see the Rangers mainly try to protect a small child. Not something super relevant now, but for the future Sentais, get used to bad child actors. In episode 20, Crimson Fight to the Death, Sun Halo Mask vs. Gorenger, which is the best episode so far, where Kaijo finds Sun Mask seemingly reformed, betraying Black Cross Army, and wanting to believe he changed, Kaito helps him out. Of course it's a trick, and Sun Halo Mask and Akka do have a showdown, so it wasn't a lie. The showdown's okay, but the Rangers do succeed in killing Sun Halo Mask. Yeah, he was only here for 4 episodes-ish, and now he's gone, leaving no impression whatsoever. But the Führer is lame by himself, so they introduce a new general immediately to take his place. Iron Man Mask General Temujin. You have to say the whole thing every time. And there is no change in how things play out. He is the exact same character as Sun Halo Mask. It does begin the only real arc in the show, spanning 3 episodes. I will describe it now. The Black Cross Army get a hold of an uber-powerful warship that destroyed Atlantis. Oh yeah, Atlantis just exists here. Don't be too shocked, it is by far nowhere near the craziest thing that you will see exist in the Sentai universe. Anyway, it seems like for the first time the Rangers might struggle against an enemy with this warship, until they easily beat it shortly after it's introduced because it was getting too interesting, I guess. Then nothing happens for a long time, so I'll talk about something I like about revisiting these old shows and seeing the world at the time. One of the reasons I love watching old movies and shows is that it's like a time capsule, you know? I find it cool that through this show, I can see what people dressed like and what Japan looked like in the mid-70s. Also, due to it being so long ago, the effects are great. Everything is practical since this is before computers, and seeing them use toy cars and dioramas for destruction, it's so charming. It's nice to see special effects done without CGI for once in my life. Or how they use what little editing they could to make things seem fantastical. I love when enemies or something jump out of the water, and it's just them jumping in the water played in reverse. Oh yeah, I guess speaking of effects, I guess this is one, that the Gorenger Storm, instead of just being an explosion, now morphs into a random object that the monster/masked person interacts with in some way, and then it explodes. Which is kind of funny sometimes, other times it's just weird. Oh, also, let's talk about the Eagle Army. They are the worst organization ever. I swear, more than half of these episodes are about how Black Cross has had some kind of spy in the Eagle Army for like, I don't know, a decade, which gets some plot started. If it's not that, then most of the episodes are about how the Black Cross Army just go around destroying multiple bases of the Eagles in succession. I'm surprised there's any of them left. Now, I get in an individual episode, this is to make the Black Cross Army seem like a threat, but binge-watching them back-to-back and seeing it happen almost every single week really makes the Eagles seem like a bunch of idiotic pussies. But yeah, it's just standard plots like that, until episode 42, the Black Iron Man dies, farewell Vadabloon, which actually does a couple things to shake up the show. Where tired of his failures, Black Führer is set to replace Iron Man Mask General Temujin with Volcano Mask General Magman. Again, for all intents and purposes, they are the same character. But we do get something for Iron Man Mask General Temujin in this. Fucking cars. But we do get something for Iron Man Mask General Temujin in this, as he sabotages a plan to harm the Rangers, helping them, so he can beat them himself. Wow, that showed some actual character. He dies in this episode. But it's not just him, the Rangers win by sacrificing the Vadabloon, which I never mentioned, but it was big, they used it in like every episode, and they honor it with a Nazi salute. A lot of Nazi symbolism in the 70s. Before you start saying, oh, so now they're at a disadvantage, no, in the last few minutes of the same episode, they just happened to get the Vadadrine, an even specialier plane helicopter vehicle thingy, and it comes with a tank. Neat. Then in episode 43, the Crimson Phoenix enter the invincible Vadadine. We get even more, as you can consider this the second half of Go Rangers. Even the opening and ending are updated with new clips. We also see the Black Cross Führer's true evil form. He's an evil starfish with white face. And Japan's weird. Well, besides the vehicles for war, the Go Rangers get another upgrade, like their new suits. No, this isn't old footage, these are the new suits. They are better, more durable, and shit, but look exactly the same, so I didn't even know they got new suits until writing this video where I read that on the fan wiki. Finally, something that will happen sometimes in Super Sentai series, the big finisher move changes, as the Gorenger Storm now becomes the Gorenger Hurricane. Instead of football, they play real football, American style. But it ends up being the same where the ball turns into an object and explodes. But I guess being American, I'm legally required to like this one more. Because football! Then a couple episodes later, the bar would get an upgrade, looking more hip, as the kids say. I'm putting out episode 48's fight choreography because they include the kid they're trying to protect. That was kind of fun and different. But nothing of real note happens at this point, which is now the 50s, which for those that don't remember when I said it, by this point is when pretty much every other Sentai series would end. But we got way more ahead of us here. And it continues on in episode 54, Crimson Challenge, the volcano's last big eruption. Which if you've noticed the pattern for these episodes, yep, Volcano Mask General Magman goes dead. Oh, and also, I kind of forgot he had this big super fortress and special unit of minions that the Go Rangers beat by sacrificing their motorcycles, called the Go Ranger Machines. F's in the chat. Volcano Mask General Magman is quickly replaced again by Commander-in-Chief Golden Mask, who, just to make you aware, is the final general of the show. They stopped replacing them. I guess the production realized constantly changing the general character was odd. But I mean, I guess that's better than, like, a main character. Could you imagine them doing that with a main character, just suddenly changing them out of nowhere?
許せん。君誰？熊野大五郎です。キレンジャーを務めさせてもらいます。キレンジャー？総司令。言い遅れたが、大岩大太がイーグル九州支部の教官として抜擢され、赴任していったんだ。そこでゴレンジャー予備軍で成績優秀な熊野大五郎をゴレンジャーに昇格させたんだ。熊野、みんなもよろしく面倒見てやってくれ。そういうわけです。よろしく。よろしく。
No, don't just move on. What the fuck? Yeah, just out of nowhere, Daita's gone, and we have Daigodo replacing him for a while. Now, the reason for this is Baku Hatakeyama wanted to take a break from Go Ranger and act in other things, like a stage play, so we got some time off to go participate in that, and while the Go Rangers are 5, they need a 5th, so they cast Jiro Daruma as Daigodo Kumano, the new temporary Key Ranger. Because, yeah, I guess you just have to pass a test to be a Go Ranger. I realize this was probably sudden, but I wish they gave more meaning to being a ranger. And yeah, I also realize it's the first series and I'm overanalyzing a show made for children, but it really makes these characters worse knowing, they can just be easily replaced. Like, Daigodo is the fat, dumb one. Just like Daita. There's no change to the group dynamics or anything. And because of their similar names, too, certain characters like 007 and her brother refer to both of them as Daichan, further establishing how interchangeable they are. If there are any differences, it's because of the actors due to their performances. They do a good job. It's not their problem. It's mostly the writing, basically trying to make it seem like nothing has changed despite an entire character changing, making it even more noticeable. Anyway, also in this episode, the Rangers do get new Go Ranger machines after their old ones got exploded in the last episode. I see very little visual difference personally and don't really care. New toys, I guess. At least they bothered to edit the opening and put Daigodo in it. Trust me, some Rangers won't even get that. Despite these changes, the show kind of got worse to me at this point, mainly with its storytelling and editing. Scenes just kind of started happening. It feels like there's no natural pacing or sequence of events. Because I started noticing there were no establishing shots. If you don't know what an establishing shot is, they are a wide shot of a location at the beginning of a scene to let the audience know where the fuck they are. The show doesn't have that. They'll just be in Tokyo and then in a random empty field for no reason. It's very jarring, and it's even more noticeable in the movie. Yep, time to talk about the movies. That's right, almost every Super Sentai series has a movie. Mainly because it was shown in a theater. Not the Go Rangers movie, Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger, The Bomb Hurricane, that was shown at a film festival. Quotations when I say movie are because they're not movies, they're slightly longer episodes, showcased by the fact that some of them would be shown as episodes on TV later on. Or vice versa, like Go Ranger did, make a slightly longer episodes, call them movies, but then show them as regular episodes edited down. And the movie that's an actual movie, The Bomb Hurricane, I have nothing to say. They were able to film in Matsuyama, and yeah, that's it. It had a really long boat chase and a lot of extra stunts and stuff, because I guess they had a bigger budget. But, whatever. Now, while it is nothing, there is an important thing of note about these Super Sentai movies, is that they are a part of the continuity. Like in some shows, the movies will actually be super important, usually introducing certain concepts or characters that would carry over into the show. Obviously, this one doesn't do that, but we do know it takes place during Daigo's time as Key Ranger since, well, he's in it. That's the only thing of note. I hope future movies are better. In episode 64, Blue UFO, the Space Army's big invasion, does introduce more stuff for the baddies. Like the Black Cross get a big flying castle fortress called the Black Cross Castle Fortress, very creative name. They also get new battle attack planes called the Battlers. I guess being evil means you have no imagination with naming. They also get ninjas. Neat. Most importantly, we get a new ending theme. Yeah, just randomly. I honestly don't know why we got a new one in episode 64. But it is pretty awesome, actually. A very catchy tune, constantly hyping up the Go Rangers. Could be the intro, honestly. We then get to episode 67, Crimson Special Attack. Key Ranger dies at sunset. Well, yeah, I guess the title kind of spoils it. Daigo dies, because Baku's play was done, so they had to get rid of the new guy somehow. I will say the episode he goes out on is actually pretty good. Where after Daigo fucks up, the Black Cross Army are able to steal some powerful weapon thingy that also inadvertently hurts a child, putting him in the hospital. So Yellow Boy goes into a Black Cross base alone to correct his mistake. He destroys that, but ends up getting gunned down, Jeebus, ending with him dying, and they actually treat his death with respect and like it is a big deal, which it is. I was just surprised they did that. Because really, he was just the temp, but I'm glad they actually killed him off with some dignity.
今度から油断しねえよ。大ちゃん、大ちゃん、大五郎、大ちゃん。
This does also mark the first time a Ranger will die in the show. Yes, this will happen again, and yes, mostly due to an actor leaving. Oh, speaking of that, we'll need another Key Ranger. Good thing 007 just so happens at this time to show up with Daita, who's back for the rest of the show now. F's in the chat for Daigoro. Now, there is another reason this episode is significant besides a major character death. That's because this new change will be with Sentai for a long time, and that's the addition of suit actors from the Japan Action Club, nowadays known as Japan Action Enterprise, a company that trains stunt actors for movies and TV, and this episode will begin its long relationship with Tokusatsu. And I mean in general, not just with Sentai, as now in the suits were professionally trained stunt actors. Some of them we will actually see outside of the suits in some future series. And you can immediately tell the difference in the action here. It's now exactly what you think of when you think of Sentai or Power Rangers. Unnecessary flips and dips, kicking and punching in the air, jumping off of tall buildings and hills just cuz. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad, because after 66 episodes, let me tell you, the fights were getting kinda stale, so this is exactly what they needed. Nothing for a while again. We get the Kyun, a balloon plane thingy that the Rangers have now because they wanted to sell more toys. And unfortunately, we do have to say goodbye to my favorite character, 007. Because you see, unlike Key Ranger, other characters don't matter much, so they don't get big send-offs. They just disappear. Like Edogawa, sometime after Daigo showed up, he just kind of vanishes for a good amount of episodes, and I don't know why. Maybe Toshio Takahara saw Baku take other gigs, and he did too. But his absence is not acknowledged at all, and he just shows up again after a few episodes. But in the meantime, because of his absence, 007 becomes way more active with the team, helping at the base, and best of all, is actually out there in the field, aiding them, driving the tank a couple times, and even does some fighting, which I loved. I like the fact that the Rangers have a friend who isn't a Ranger, someone who can just help them out when they're busy and they need someone to do something they can't. And also act as a friend. You'd often see her with Peggy since they're the girls. Also, again, Eri Kanema is really cute. Unfortunately, in episode 72, which is mostly an Owl Ranger episode, 007 just vanishes. She stops showing up and is never mentioned again. They never give a reason, she's just gone. And considering I liked her character so much, I do wish she got some kind of send-off. Because we'll see some tertiary characters that do way less get way more for some reason. Maybe it has something to do with, at this point, Edogawa being back. Again, no mention of where he was. He's just back. So I guess they thought they didn't need her anymore? I don't know. Well, Yoko, aka 007, while the show may forget you, I won't. And I'm going to put you in a category I'm going to call Honorary Rangers. Characters that, even though they never wore the suit, do enough they deserve to be called a Ranger. Well, I mean, in one episode she did play Momo Ranger as a decoy. I think she should have been Daita's replacement as Yellow Ranger, personally. But yeah, you're a Ranger in my book, 007. But yeah, after Daigo's death, nothing really happens in the show besides the finale. Well, there is episode 79, Crimson Pursuit, the Formless Assassin's True Form, where the Rangers fight in an ice skating rink. Because they got permission to film in an ice skating rink. In terms of story, we just go straight to the ending in episode 84. Great Crimson Victory! Shine forever, 5 stars. A kind of lame finale, honestly, as the Black Cross Fuhrer, after 2 years, decides to get off his ass and actually fight the Rangers himself. And he fucks them up badly. Wasn't even close. Almost like you should have done this sooner. However, he can't kill them due to plot contrivance, a mystical prophecy, involving the constellation Cassiopeia. I'm not explaining what that is, Google it. Due to the Fuhrer turning into a starfish, Commander-in-Chief Golden Mask tries to fight in his place, but is defeated, but makes sure to leave behind a gift for his Fuhrer by scattering his remains in the wind. Ew, good thing they're wearing masks. Imagine accidentally swallowing the remains of a masked weirdo. Sounds like a bad furry convention story. Well, it turns out these remains are a way for the Fuhrer to track down the Gorenger base somehow, and the Black Cross Army successfully infiltrates and blows it up. It looks like it might be over, but thanks to contrivance, a prophecy, turns out the Gorengers are connected to this Cassiopeia, because the beginnings of their first names, Kaijo, Shinmei, Oiwa, Peggy, Asuka, Ka-shi-o-pi-a. Seriously?
Peggy no pe, Asuka no a, Ka-shi-o-pe-a.
Well, I'll give it to the writer who even noticed that. You must have some killer ADHD. So knowing this weird connection, Kaijo goes to surrender to the Black Cross Army, but it was a ruse, of course. And he uses Cassiopeia, I guess, to weaken the Fuhrer, as all the Rangers arrive for the final battle. And they do a repeat of the thing they did with Iron Mask General Temujin and Volcano Mask General Magman by suicide bombing all their vehicles into the... I forget the bad guy's ship name, it was so generic. And they blow him up, saving the day, ending the Black Cross Army. And so the first ever Super Sentai series ends, with Edogawa congratulating the Rangers by ruining the last technology the Eagles had, and ending evil forever, at least for a few weeks.
君たちは星だ。永久に空に輝く5つの星だ。さらばゴレンジャー、ゴレンジャー、ゴレンジャー。
Himitsu Sentai Gorenger is not that great, honestly. It's not bad, but really there's no reason to watch this show unless you're doing what I'm doing or are a diehard Sentai fan. It is neat seeing where it all started and how many things introduced here would be fleshed out in later series, but man, it's so long, because while it is the longest season, most episodes were a lot of nothing. If you haven't seen my other videos, I actually love episodic series, because to me it gives them more opportunity for more stories, characters, all things like that, but this show doesn't really do that. It's just a monster shows up, does some shit, they stop it. That's it. Now for the record, I'm not going to be so hard on this show for being basic. Again, it is the first of its kind. They really had no idea what Sentai would be. And for a show in the 70s, in the beginning it was entertaining, mostly due to the effects and wacky premises. And let me be clear on what I like for a good episode of Sentai for the series in general. This goes for Power Rangers too. I'm mostly just looking for either a fun episode with a crazy premise or idea that just runs with it to make it so batshit it's entertaining. And there were some episodes like that, like episode 7, Pink Moonlight, Wolf Corps, where the Kamen guy who looks like Mactonite is turning people into werewolves to fight for Black Cross. That's incredible. Or episode 53, The Red Home Run King, the Deadly Number 1, which is so all over the place about the Rangers imprisoning a Black Cross Army doctor guy who gets freed by a baseball monster, and it's just silly in all the right ways. Also, it's one of my favorite episode subjects, baseball. But my favorite episode of the show is episode 46, Black Super Express, Locomotive Mass Big Rampage. Because this episode's common shits is a Thomas the Tank Engine fan that does that when he moves. And his whole plan is just to keep going forward. Well, it's to triangulate the position of the Gorenger base through some science bullshit. But the fact the episode is just the Rangers trying to stop this guy and figure out what the fuck is his problem is just so fun. And yeah, that's really the only criteria I have. It just has to be entertaining and fun. But the other aspect of a good episode is the one you don't expect from Sentai or Power Rangers, and that's an emotional one, or one that seems deeper than it is. And sometimes these won't be my favorite episodes, but I will acknowledge it's probably one of the best ones. And here, it's episode 73, Black Whirlwind, It's a Contest, a straight line. Where Kendo Mask is the threat of the week, but unlike the other masks, he has honor. And goes about defeating the Rangers one by one in pure fair combat, until he fights Aqua Ranger, and seeing he's noble, Red decides to save him, now knowing all Kamens aren't bad. And vice versa, Kendo Mask saves his life when the Black Cross Army tries to interrupt their duel, which they don't like, so they woman and Yu-Gi-Oh him. Wait, that joke makes no sense now. They brainwash him. Ugh, feels weird to say. And he becomes evil, and Akka is disappointed, thinking he was tricked again. But when the Rangers win the fight, Kendo Mask's brainwashing comes undone, and he realizes he fought with hatred and dirty tactics, not with honor. So ashamed of this, he takes his own life, with mostly Aqua Ranger showing respect to him. You guys salute too, you dicks. So yeah, that was the best episode in my opinion, as it introduced some nuance with a villain. It also had some personal stuff with Aqua Ranger, considering it goes with his character after what he did with Sun Halo Mask. Also, let's be real, Kendo Mask offing himself at the end was pretty cold. That's the kind of shit you would not see today in a kids show, but having more serious stuff like that showcases kids shows like this can be more than the sum of its parts. So while this episode doesn't do a deep introspective dive into the characters and the premise, it does enough where you get it, and that's all it needs to do. Another way there can be a good emotional episode, kind of, goes into our next part, with the characters. In my opinion, the most memorable episodes of TV shows are the ones that explore the characters, mainly our protagonists, flesh them out, which also fleshes out the world even more, getting into some of their past, lives outside of what we usually see them do in the show. We get none of that here. Well, some get some stuff, others not so much. As sadly for this show, and a lot of the early on future Sentai, the Rangers are kind of nothing. And yes, I'm aware the characters in these shows are basically stereotypes, but this show doesn't even have that much. Like Kaijo, the Red Ranger, he's the leader. That's all I can tell you about him. Honestly, his best episode were ones I already talked about with Sun Halo Mask and Kendo Mask. And that's it. Seriously, he gets nothing else. In one episode, we do learn he had a sister that was killed by the Black Cross Army, and that's it. No further explanation. I just don't really get a sense of his or other Rangers' personalities, He's a good guy, I guess, and now Yamakoto has a cool voice fit for shouting out the big finish moves. But yeah, he's the OG, so I have to respect him. Akira, the Blue Ranger, has something. He does machines. Or more vehicles. As they set up, he's mostly the caretaker and driver of the Vada Blue and Vada Dean. And his episodes do focus on that. Like in episode 50, The Blue Wing Secret, Dangerous Varadreen, where the Black Cross Army spread deepfakes about the Vada Dean, doing drone strikes on civilians, which Akira hates. Also, we find out the Vada Dean was made by AI. There's also episode 72, Blue Secrecy, Vada Dean left to be dismantled. When the Vada Dean is disabled by Broccoli Head here, Al goes into a Black Cross base solo to get it back and stop their plot. He does get one of the better episodes in episode 76, Crimson Infiltration. Did you see Tsuyoshi Kaijo? Where Kaijo goes missing, and to find out if Black Cross has something to do with it, Akira gets intentionally captured to find out what they know, and he gets fucked up this episode. The Black Cross Army do not waste time having a Ranger captured. They gleefully torture him until they feel like killing him. My boy Shimmy out here getting whipped like my ancestors. It did show the lengths him and the others would go for Kaijo, I guess, and each other. But yeah, outside of that, dude really loves his ride, that's it. Also, no, they never explain why he's dressed like a cowboy. Daito the Yellow Ranger definitely has the most defined character, that he is definitely fat and dumb. That's it. But what's worse isn't that that's all there is to him. It's that it makes him the most fleshed out Ranger, cause at least I can tell you his personality. Most of his gimmick is eating curry provided by the bar or being baffled by riddles given to him by Tato. And later, Gon. Yes, that bird, which I thought was a parrot because it talks, but it's actually a Mina bird, okay. And yes, talking animal sidekicks are a thing in Sentai. But besides that, most of Daita's few episodes he did get don't do much other than him getting tricked by the Black Cross Army with drugged curry or something. In episode 22, Yellow Air Raid, Nightmares of Atlantis, he does take an initiative to stop the battle warship I mentioned when Tato and some kids get taken. Then the most he gets is in episode 36, The Fierce Crimson Charge, the Mobile Fortress Invincible battleship, where he meets and falls in love with a mysterious girl who aids the Rangers, but the others think she's a spy. And Daita thinks they're crazy and dicks for not thinking a cute girl can just like him. They're right, she is a cyborg human or whatever, but his kind nature does get her to help them out in the end as she dies. Also gave Baku a chance to act, and turns out when he's not stuffing his face full of curry, he's actually pretty good at it.
Aya-sanと鉄人仮面の話をそっくり聞かせてもらったばい。寂しかったんよ。
I guess you can interpret his character as, yeah, he's not the smartest, but he's the heart of the team, a gentle giant. But the episodes didn't really portray that often, because every episode after this one, he's mostly just there for comedy. Peggy the Pink Ranger probably gets the most episodes that focus on her, which I was shocked by. Another thing I was shocked by is how she's treated in this show with respect. Look, it's Japan in the 70s and it's a female character. I was expecting, let's say, some sexism. But no, she's a part of the team as the others and is treated as such, usually working with Kaijo to carry out operations. I think it's safe to say she's kind of like the second in command of the Rangers here, considering how much she does, usually missions to infiltrate Black Cross schemes alone. Like episode 57, The Black Encircling Net, by Face Peggy, where she infiltrates a town that Black Cross is trying to brainwash, I think with this furry thing. And this episode showcases a trope, I guess, of the Pink Rangers, which will be seen in future series, disguises or quick changing. As it is canon, I'm serious, that the women of Sentai, specifically Pink Rangers, I guess just genetically have the ability to quickly disguise themselves for whatever situation. I want to reiterate, I'm being for real with that. That is not a joke. This is a thing. It is explained in a movie we will see in like 30 years. Also, being half Swiss, she of course speaks English.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Oh, beautiful! あなたはハリウッドのスターみたいだ. I love you!
Oh, no, no.
But like I said, I was glad they treated her with some respect. Sometimes, because there were some episodes like episode 16, White Weirdness, The Eye in the Mirror, where a mirror common mask torments Peggy to take her out solo, and when she tells the others, they're like, nah, you're just PMSing, girl, take a vacation. And even by episode 16, it's kind of stupid that they don't believe their friend when she says they're being attacked by their mortal enemy that's shown in the past to have weird powers. Like, hello? But then they're supportive sometimes, like in episode 40, The Crimson Vengeance Demon, the Momo Ranger from Hell, where Peggy sadly does get woman brainwashed and attacks the group, but thankfully they get done with that plot point quickly. And the episode instead focuses on, because of her brainwashing, she can no longer transform into Momo Ranger for reasons, I'm sure. And everyone, instead of talking shit about how she got womaned, is actually pretty supportive of her, with Edogawa training her to be able to transform again, and the others trying to cheer her up when she's clearly down about, getting captured and brainwashed like a dumbass. And we actually get to see Lisa Kamagi act. So yeah, surprising gender equality in Go Rangers. Who knew? Finally, there's Kenji, the Green Ranger. His thing is he's the brash young one, is what the show tells me, because there's not really an episode to show this. Well, there's one. Episode 24, Blue Anger, Strong Minamarang, Big Counterattack, where him and Peggy try to deliver some important information about a crucial Eagle pipeline, but are intercepted by Razor Kamen, who instead of attacking, taunts Kenji, calling him a scared little bitch boy. And despite Peggy telling him not to, Kenji ain't no bitch boy, and fights him, which leads to his Minamarang, he does his thing, he uses a boomerang, to be destroyed, and Black Cross gets that data. Problem is, Kenji doesn't really, learn a lesson in this episode about, patience or whatever. He just upgrades his weapon and wins. Episode over. Kind of weird. Also, it doesn't really solve anything, because Black Cross still have all the info on the Eagle pipeline. They put it in their computer and shit. They could still attack it at any time, but don't think about it. He does get what would be one of the best episodes. See if you can guess why it isn't. In episode 81, Blacked Out, The Murder Spy's Trap, where Kenji is framed for doing a mass shooting of an Eagle base, and he's devastated realizing his old friend who he trained with is who set him up. So he goes on the run as a fugitive to clear his name. Cool episode with a good premise. My problem with it is that it's another episode that makes Eagle look like a bunch of dumbasses, because this is episode 81? Kenji has been Middle Ranger for 2 years at this point, fighting Black Cross, and they are known to have 1 million spies in Eagle, yet they accept, yep, Kenji did it. He just went crazy and betrayed the cause he fought for so long for no reason, because he has no motive. At least the Rangers believe him. I know, again, episodic, blah blah blah, it's first of its kind, but again, binge watching these and seeing the sheer incompetence of the Eagle Army, without the Rangers, they would have been dead long ago. But yeah, that's it for the Rangers. Not much else to say about them. They exist. There's more than you can say for the supporting cast. Commander Edogawa is a commander. He gives out orders to the Rangers. That's it. Sometimes he reins them in when their emotions get the better of them, or when they need guidance, like the Peggy brainwashed episode or the Kenji Razor Mask one. But it's not very often, and again, his presence is not missed when he weirdly disappears for a few episodes. Most of his time is spent being a comedy partner to Daita, because he eats all his curry. He's definitely a commander, but less of a confidant or guide to the Rangers, as other figures like him will be in future series. Later, once we get real teenagers with attitude, the mentor figure aspect of these kinds of characters will be more apparent. I already talked about Yoko 007. She's awesome. I love her. Honorary Ranger. Check out episode 68, The Pink Rebellion, the big attack of Needle, 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 where her and Peggy infiltrate a town being brainwashed through shots. That's right. The Rangers are here to teach kids about anti-vaxxing. And hey, if 007 is for it, then so am I. The worst part about 007 is her brother, Taro, who is nothing. He only exists to give Daito riddles or be captured as leverage against Yoko or the Rangers. And that's all the supporting cast, and I already said as much as I can about the villains. They are evil. That's it. That's all of them. That's all the characters. Again, being the first one, I won't hold the lack of substance of the characters over it. It was kind of expected. But if by season 4 the shit's still like this, I'm going to be upset. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Himitsu Sentai Gorenger. Like I did say, it's really not worth a watch unless you really want to see where it all started. And if you do, a lot of it's skippable. Once you've seen one episode, you've basically seen what the rest of the show is like. It is the OG, so you gotta respect it though. So what happened to the actors after starring in the original Sentai? Well, Naoya Makoto is still fairly active, as recent as several years ago. Not really getting starring roles, but he does appear in bit parts in various TV dramas and movies. His most recent role credit being in a 2024 TV drama. Now in Sentai, we will see him again, mostly in anniversary series and specials, since, well, he's the original Red Ranger. He's going to get brought up again eventually. And most recently, he appeared alongside the original cast in the 50th Sentai Anniversary special program. Hiroshi Miyauchi, I won't say much about, as he is an example of a few actors we will see throughout this retrospective who are just tied to tokusatsu like fate, because this is definitely not the last time we will see him. Trust me. Just know he would do some acting outside of Sentai here and there, but these days seems mostly retired. All things seem to work out for them. Unfortunately, we gotta get realistic, serious, and depressing for the Yellow Rangers. Baku Hatakeyama, after Go Rangers, did not have such a lucky break. Because of his portrayal as Daita, it was hard to get work outside of being typecast. Besides some roles he was given by tokusatsu producers to help him out, he wasn't doing much. And unfortunately, on July 13th, 1978, a year after Go Rangers ended, he would take his own life. In a note, he would describe his financial troubles and inability to get work that didn't typecast him as the reasons. Not much was said about him after by other staff or members, except Naoya, who would express regret in an interview about how he was unable to help him, as he would take his life during the filming of Tokuso Saizensen, a police drama which Naoya was a part of. It's a terrible thing, no way around it, and it unfortunately shows a trend that we'll see in Sentai and even Power Rangers with the actors. You could have a strong working relationship with the cast and crew, appearing several times, build up a good fan base, still get work here or there. Or it'd be like Baku, be seen as not a real actor or only suited for certain roles because the character you portrayed was in a kid's show. It is truly sad because, like I said, when he was allowed to, Baku was a great actor. You can tell. It was a great loss for everyone involved, and it's sad it seemed he had bitter feelings toward Go Ranger for putting him in such a situation. Jiro Daruma, the temporary Yellow Ranger, is still alive as of me writing this, but did not have such a good life afterward either. Similar to Baku, he would have trouble not getting roles, typecasting him similar to Daigoro, and would retire from acting sometime in the 1980s. He would eventually move to the Philippines, get married to a young Filipino woman, have a kid, and move back to Japan, where it seemed like life was fine until 2006, where he would suffer from osteoarthritis, a degenerative disease wearing down joints and increasing mobility. He would then have other medical issues, including respiratory problems, as the years went on. This, of course, made finding work very difficult, and his wife would leave him in 2012, taking their son, leaving him to live alone in his apartment, working as a handicrafter in an institution that aids disabled people to pay rent. Now, that was very sad and also very detailed, wasn't it? Because no one knew Jiro's situation, because, no social media until recently. Until 2014, during the 40th anniversary special of Super Sentai, where they told this story. Being a special in Japan, I cannot find footage of this outside of pictures, because they don't like saving these things. And while I'm not sure on his current state, like the other Rangers, the most recent time we'd see him was in the 50th anniversary, where he was in a wheelchair. But it seems he still values his time on Go Rangers, still showing up to do these specials as the Yellow Ranger representative. And I do hope he gets to live a comfortable and happy rest of his life despite everything and is getting the proper aid he needs these days. The last two Rangers, not much to say really, which after the Yellow Rangers stories is great to hear, honestly. Lisa Kamaki and Yukio Ito would work a bit in acting afterward, but would mostly retire in the mid-80s, where they seem to live pretty normal lives afterward, thank God. However, like Miyauchi, this is not the last time we will see either of them in Sentai. They both come back in big ways later. One of the times Lisa comes back is kind of funny, at least to me anyway. You'll see soon. Toshio Takahata, at least from what I gather, is one of those actors that, while not doing anything that made him super famous before and after Go Rangers, He was considered a great actor who would get many various roles in dramas and movies and even tokusatsu. Sadly, he would pass away on February 26, 2000 due to heart failure. Eri Kanema, which is a stage name apparently, also had some unfortunate circumstances, continuing to act until the mid-2000s, and would get married to actor Masato Furuoya, who in 2003 would take his own life, leaving her with a massive 300 million yen debt, which I think she paid off. Information after that is unclear, and honestly I think that's prying enough into her personal life, but she does have children who seem to be doing well as models and actors, so that's great to hear. And for this series, those are the only actors I'm going to go over. I will mostly focus on the Rangers, of course, and some supporting cast that I think actually supported them, which is why I haven't mentioned Hiroyuki Kanuma, who played Taro. I hope he's doing good wherever he is, but his character sucked. And I'll do so in the future, but I'm not really going to go over the villains and their actors, like the Führer, who was played by multiple people, mainly because he was a generic bad guy with no impression. Same with the Kamens. I mean, most of the actors who portrayed them are regular suit actors who will come back later on in future roles, so I will most likely mention them at some point, just not now. But yep, that's it for Himitsu Sentai Gorenger. It came to an end, and again, not sure why, 50 years ago. But probably like most shows, it was due to either low ratings than what they wanted, or running out of ideas, burnout, things like that. So with an ending, maybe Toei would go back to the drawing board, try to find out ways to expand on this concept, maybe take a break, bring back Kamen Rider to not repeat these mistakes. Nope! We gotta ride that wave, baby, because only 2 weeks after Gorenger ended, we would get the next Super Sentai series to try to capitalize on Sentai's popularity. And where Gorenger exploded in popularity to the likes that no one expected, making it the longest running Sentai show, and its sequel series would get nowhere near that, being cancelled unceremoniously halfway through its run, making it the shortest Super Sentai series. Despite the fact that, honestly, I think it's better than Gorenger. Join me next time, Rangers, and bring your best lubricant to grease out some cyborg parts, also for Jackin, as we take a look at the second Super Sentai series, Jack Dengeki Tai. And remember, once a Ranger, always a Ranger.